Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Today I'm going to show you a different way to make fried cheese wedges. I made a video of one way, posted it last week, and this is the other way. These are crunchy cheese wedges, and ooh, they're so good. And you know, I would call them keto, but I have found that everybody has a different definition of what keto means to them, so I'm avoiding that. But I will say these will fit on most keto eating plans. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Click the little bell, then you'll get a notice when I make new videos. Now let's get cooking. We'll start with the cheese because the cheese is pretty important. To make the fried cheese, I use Queso Fresco. That is fresh cheese. And I use an egg. And I'm going to show you this coconut flour. And then I'm not going to use it. But you can use it. And some folks think that it helps the meat skins stick better to the cheese. I've done it both ways. It works just as well without the coconut flour. But I'll show you when to use it in case you want to. Now you can cut this cheese in any kind of pieces you want to. I just like to cut them in wedges because I like the way that looks and I like the way they cook up. So I'm marking off 1/2 inch slices. And you don't want to make them much smaller than that because this Queso Fresco is not a melting cheese, but it will eventually melt. So we want something that will hold together, and that's generally a fresh cheese. An aged cheese generally melts faster. So I'm just cutting these in 1/2 inch pieces, and this is about 1/2 pound of the cheese. Now, usually when you get this, you find it in hoops, circles, instead of the little rectangles. I'm going to trim that little piece off and do a little quality control here. Then I cut it across in wedges. You know, all the different cheeses can get confusing. I don't use this particular cheese for cheese dip. I use it for grating or for frying. But, and I'm going to do a cheese dip later and I'll show you what I use for that. I use the queso blanco and American white cheese. And then maybe a little mozzarella, depending on what I've got. But this cheese is perfect for frying because it holds its shape longer in the heat. So this is a 5-ounce package of pork rinds. People laugh at me because I call them meat skins, because when we grew up, pork was the meat you ate and this was the skinned. And an orange had a rind. But anyway, they're called pork rinds. And I'm going to put about half the package in here. If you were doing a whole pound of cheese, you would put the whole package in here. And I'm doing a 1/2 pound. So we're just going to crunch these up. Just a little note. If you have some stale pork rinds, meat skins, they do better than the really fresh ones. Just they have less moisture in them, but these are pretty fresh. I just opened the package, and you just want to grind them up until they're fine, maybe like cornmeal. They don't have the exact same texture as cornmeal, but about that texture. And this is where our crunch comes from. So let's put it together. I've got the pork rinds ground up in a little plate, and I beat the egg with 1 teaspoonful of water, and I dip the cheese into the egg and then the cheese into the pork rinds. Now, if you were using the coconut flour, and many people do, you would do it between the egg and the pork rinds. And the theory being that it helps the pork rinds stick. My theory is I'm going to use as little as possible. I do like to really watch my carbs, and overall coconut flour's kind of high in carbs. And I have found, because I was making these one day when I was out of coconut flour, that it sticks just fine without the coconut flour. So I don't use it. But if you want to, you can. And I'm just going to sort of press the ground up pork rinds into the cheese. The egg helps it stay on. I'm doing the wet hand, dry hand method here. One hand goes in the wet, the other hand goes in the dry. And I do use a glove when I do these because they're messy. So I'm going to finish these up and then I will be back. Here we go, all ready to fry up. I'll meet you at the stove. In my cast iron skillet, I have enough oil to come about halfway up. Have it on medium, a little bit above medium, and I'm going to test it. You'll see a little drop of the pork rinds that's dropped in there. Sizzles but doesn't burn, so the temperature's right. And I'm going to carefully slide these in. And you want to be careful to not knock off the meat skin, the pork rinds. See, I still call them meat skins. But you also don't want to splash the oil up on you because it's pretty hot. So put them in fairly carefully. And I'm going to set my timer. I'm going to fry these 1 minute on each side. And some of the pork rinds are going to come off in the oil. And while there are some things you can cook and you can recycle the oil, this is not one of them. And it's very important that once you put them in, you don't touch them for a minute. After a minute, we turned them, and I'm going to leave the sound on this part of it so that you can hear the sizzle. The sizzle is one way to judge if your temperature is right. They're still on medium temp. I'm going to flip them over. Look at that nice brown. Hear that little sizzle? Setting my timer again for a minute. Then I'll plate them up and show you what we got. And there you go. And here's a little secret. When you fry pork rinds like this, they taste like bacon. I just have some salsa and sour cream here. In case you're wondering, this is about 1.5 to 2 grams of carbs there on the salsa and sour cream. I'm going to let you hear the crunch. Not as crunchy as, say, fish and chips, but a definite nice crunch going on there. Now, most of the time when I make fried cheese, I just do the wedges without the pork rind coating. But oh my, these are so good with this pork rind coating. Really satisfies that crunchy snack urge that you get. And they are just amazing. And that cheese inside, can't beat it. I hope you try this recipe. And I hope you like it as much as I do. And I hope to see you next time on Debbie's Back Porch.